Hello, hello, hello. This is Lee Haney, and good evening. Hopefully, guys, we're set up good here. It's my first time doing a live on Instagram. Let me know you hear me, guys. Okay? Can you hear me? All right, all right. I see you coming in. But listen, I hope you guys had a fantastic day, and I want to share with you some awesome information that I strongly feel would help you as far as contest prep is concerned. And, I count it as a joy to be able to sit down with you and share some of the knowledge I've gained over the years. And hopefully it can make a difference in your contest prep and so forth, because, we fully understand, particularly those in the bodybuilding community, some of the things that has taken place recently concerning several deaths in our community. A lot of it due to diuretics, overstressing the systems and all of these different kind of things. And, it really breaks my heart to see this continue to happen time and time again. So this is why this live is so important. So I've had several of you to write me and send messages regarding specific questions that you may have. So I'm going to do my very best to answer some of those questions. So guys, can you see me? Let me know you can. This is my first time, so I have this thing set up sideways. So can you see me? Say yes or no, guys. Let me see here. Can you see me good? I'm not upside down or anything, am I? Am I good? All right, here we go. So listen, first thing I want to talk about is, safe contest prep. That's very, very important. You guys have heard me often use the term stimulate and don't annihilate. Well, that holds true whether it's training, whether it's nutrition, or prepping the last few weeks before a show. You want to be very careful about doing that. So now, let's start first with prepping for a show as it relates to the amount of time needed to train for a show in a proper way. One of the things that I always emphasize is if you can't flex it, don't carry it. And that statement is meant to say, well, keep your body fat under control so you don't have to hurry up and do a fix-it job. When you go through that type of deal, trying to drop 40, 50 pounds of weight, you're going to stress your systems. And that's not a healthy thing to happen. So you want to be on top of your toes with that. So what I advise, as I did when I was training for competition, I would generally start, let's say, the competition is in October for the Mr.Olympia, September. I would actually start competition prep around the first of the year. Now, that didn't mean I was eating like a bird or anything. No, none of that. It just meant that I wanted to make sure I set my workouts up properly. I determined what type of training system I was going to use. Then I would slowly walk my way, each month, slowly down to the competition and getting and follow through on the prep. I never had to hurry up and fix anything. Other things that I always advise too is never, and I didn't allow to happen to myself, is allow my body fat to get too high. That's very, very important. And so first, number one, determining what type of training system you're going to use. Now there's two systems that I strongly recommend, and I've used my entire life. Of course, when I was young, just getting started out, most of us stayed with the straight 6. That's 6 days on, 1 day off, meaning Sunday. And, we got great results from that. Muscle maturity was perfect. That's the same system that some of the greats like Arnold and Robbie, the best of the best used that particular system, which is why the muscle maturity was just so far ahead. Even in today's standards, it was so far ahead. Now, that was a very good system to go about using. However, it could somewhat leave the body taxed. Now, a straight 6 is okay if you're carrying a lot of body fat. If you got to get your weight down, straight 6 is perfect for that because you're training more frequent. Doesn't mean you're piling on a ton of weight. Because you got to remember, bodybuilding is about squeezing. It's about form. It's about technique. It's not about trying to muscle weight around. The mind and the muscle connection got to be there. So I want to really emphasize that. Now, the other system that I preferred, and it is the preferred system, is the 3 on off 1. That is an excellent program. I loved it. It allowed me to grow because the body had that extra day to recover. But at the same time, you're training frequent enough to keep the body fat under control. So the body's recovering and you're able to keep the body fat under control, which will therefore allow you to develop more muscle maturity. Now, doing that type of program, the safest way to go about it is using a push-pull. Let's say, for instance, Monday would be push chest, pull biceps, push tricep, abs, calf. Next day would be legs, quad push, hams pull. The following day, Wednesday, would be push shoulders, pull back, calves, abs. And the fourth day, we're off. But they're not exactly off. We will use that day for some form of aerobic. Could be speed walking, treadmill, biking, but you really want to be careful and give the muscles enough time to recover. But you're still eating on that particular day. So first, determine what type of system. If you're a fat boy, straight 6 until you get this body fat under control. Okay, 3 on off 1. If you can see your abs, and that's a good indication right there. If you can see your abs, you're doing great. But if your abs disappear, then guess what? You're fat. And so you have to do that straight 6, which is punishing to the body. So, okay, that's number 1. Determine what kind of system you're going to use. That's very important. Now, let me see here. Now, as I said, you want to start your prep about 7 to 8 months out, so you ease your way into it. And what I would generally do too and recommend is not allow your body fat to go crazy. I practice staying anywhere between 15 pounds over my last competition weight. For instance, if my last show I ended with around 230, then I would go up to maybe 245 pounds. And in that 7 to 8 months, I will work hard to get that extra 15 pounds as crisp as possible. And maybe you prefer it to be called a redistributing. So you want to lower the body fat and produce muscle in that 7 to 8 month period. Thereby, when you get around 8 weeks away from the show, you're not doing a rush job. You don't have to start eating like a bird, particularly if you train like a horse. So all of that is extremely important. Stay within striking distance. You can't flex it, don't carry it. So be smart about that, okay? Now, the other thing is too, make sure you keep a good nutrition log. A good nutrition log is extremely important. Of course, when I won the Teenage America and played 4th in the Miss USA at the age of 20, I didn't count nutrition. It was more of a natural type of feel about eating, carbohydrates, protein, and fat. But when it came to taking it to the next level, training for the junior national, the NPC nationals, hey, I had to really be on my toes. And you're going to have to be also, if you really want to do this and do it right, you have to become a mad scientist, a nutritional scientist. You need to have documented the amount of protein, carbohydrates, and fats. You got to have it documented so you have a roadmap to take you back to where you need to go. Or if you get off track, you can look at your log and find out, well, what's happening? I'm a little flat and I'm tired and I'm weak. Then guess what? We need to increase the carbs by maybe another 30 to 40 grams. So as long as you got your numbers, you have something to refer back to. That's why you have to have a clear understanding of the science of nutrition. Keep your logs, understand calories and so forth. And in my day, we didn't say macros. We said protein, carbohydrates, and fats, okay? And then you wonder, well, why I need to be? Well, in my book, Totally Awesome, which you can order online, go to leehaney.com, order online, I talk about those different nutritional components. Because in my day, we went to ratios 60% protein, 60% carbohydrates, 30% protein, 10% fat. And of course, that can be manipulated depending upon who you are. Are you mesomorph, ectomorph, endomorph? Mesomorph, ectomorph, endomorph. So once that's determined, whatever category you fall into, then you can manipulate the calories based upon that. And if you don't know what you are, who you are, you need to order my book, or you need to study that and figure that out. For the most part, when you look at someone like Arnold or Robbie or myself or Lita Broderick or Sparrow, we're mesomorphic. We have a natural genetic base of muscle that we were gifted with. And so having that and then being smart enough to manipulate nutrition made all the difference in our level of success. So know your numbers, do your homework. I'm working with a gentleman now who's prepping for a show, and man, boy, was he totally off base. He had no idea. He wasn't keeping his numbers. He was just going totally by instinct. And because he was slightly mesomorphic, he was getting away with a lot of things. But I got him on track now with the right training system. I got him counting his nutrition. And then we say, okay, how do you feel today? You feel good? Are your veins popping? Do you feel flat? Then we can go back to those numbers. Okay, we need to increase that or we need to drop that. Okay? And again, you don't want to train like a horse and eat like a bird. That'll never end up good. Okay? So let's be smart about that. I had one gentleman, someone that's texted me here that asked me the question concerning rice as far as being used. Yes, I use rice quite a bit when I train for competition. Brown rice is far better. Generally a cup of rice is going to carry about 40 grams of carbohydrates. And carbohydrates is your power food. If you don't have any carbs in the body, you have no energy. If you don't have enough carbs, then the body's going to feed off your muscle as a source of energy. You don't want to lose that. That happens quite a bit when people drop their carbs real low and just living off of tuna fish and green beans. Miserable human being. I never had to do that. And guess what? You keep your body fat under control. You won't have to do it either. If you can't flex it, don't carry it. Okay? Now, let's roll back down here. Another question here. Okay, you want to avoid the dangers of dehydrating. We've had a lot of athletes that die from not drinking water or taking diuretics. I mean, where does this craziness come from? You cannot survive without water. You can't survive without water. So there's a way to get tight for a show, in which I've learned over the years how to go about doing it. And I learned from some of the greatest legends of all time. One being Albert Beckles, the other one being Johnny Fuller, the other one being Robbie Robinson. I mean, and you look at the longevity of these icons that I just named. These gentlemen in their 70s, Albert is 90, and guess what? They're still alive. Whereby you have these athletes now at the age of 40, 46, they're gone. And that doesn't have to be. It does not have to be. So I'm going to give you a few tips as it relates to what I do and what I did and what I learned from some of these great gentlemen. One is being, when it comes to lowering the water, well, you don't have to stop drinking water. Number one, you want to make sure you keep a good complex of multi-minerals in the system at all times. You don't want anything removing the minerals from your body like diuretics. Got to be very careful with that. So there's natural diuretics like a B6. I use B6 as a natural diuretic, along with horsetail grass. That was a natural diuretic. And then I learned from Albert, a natural diuretic was the Albert Beckles, the great Albert Beckles. Let me not say Albert, the great Albert Beckles. I use hot tea and lemon, which acts as a natural diuretic. So you're flushing, but at the same time, you're not losing your minerals. So that's important. And then I would use about 2 weeks prior to the show, I would use a garbage bag to sweat the water out. So I'm still drinking, and at the same time, I'm sweating the water out between the skin and the muscle. Not losing the fluids in the muscle. You got to keep that. And so I never had a problem with cramping or anything such as that. Then as far as that, the multi-minerals, very important, magnesium and potassium combination. The magnesium should be at least a 3-to-1 ratio to potassium. Even now, after I'm retired, I still take in at least around 1,000 milligrams of magnesium a day, roughly around 200 to 300 of milligrams of potassium. So that's very important to be mindful of if you're last minute prepping for the show and trying to get tight. Do not discontinue drinking water. Don't do that. Be smart. Protect your kidneys. Protect your kidneys. Protect your liver. Be smart about that. Guess what? I mentioned it in my book, Totally Awesome. You can go to my website, leehaney.com. What I've just mentioned to you is inside of my book about last minute prep as far as helping to lower the outward water and to tighten up. Okay? So go there. All right, let's go again. Let's talk about carb depleting. There's another big one. Some people use carb depleting and some people, they just naturally sweat the water out. So there's ways to do it. And when I say sweat the water out, I'm saying between the skin and the muscle, not inside of the muscle. So you got to keep that to keep yourself healthy and alive. Protect your cells. Okay, so some people would just sweat it out using the tanning bed, sauna, and so forth, or wearing something heavy like a sweatshirt or a garbage bag to sweat it out, which I did that also. But another thing you can do too is when you do carbohydrate depletion. Now, carbohydrate depletion, what happens in this process? Let's say, for instance, you were training on 250, 300 grams of carbs, and let's say we're talking 7 days out from the competition, depending on your size now. Some people deplete quicker than others. Some people, a little bit slower. So for myself, I would start, let's say, Sunday. I would take my carbs from being around 400 grams of carbs a day. I would break it down to roughly 100 grams of carbs. Never zero. 100 was zero to me because of my size. And also because I practiced this. I didn't, okay, here I am right before the show. I'm going to carb deplete. No, you need to be ready at least 4 to 5 weeks away from that show. So that if you carb deplete and practice then and reload, you'll know how much time it actually takes you to do that. And it's not going to bring you any harm because you're that far away from the show. Okay? So at least about 4 to 5 weeks out, you should be ready. You should be on cruise control, not walking around with a fat belly 4 weeks before the show and having to do crazy stuff like eat green beans and tuna fish. Ridiculous. Amateurs do that stuff. Okay? So anyway, what happens that Sunday, I take my carbs from 400 down to 100. Then I do that again on Monday, Tuesday, around Wednesday, and then sometimes Thursday. I found that Wednesday, I would, keep them right around that 100 again. So we're talking about 4 days. And then Thursday, I would take my carbs from where it would normally be 400. I take it all the way up to 800 grams of carbohydrate. Yes. 800 grams of carbs. Thursday and Friday, the show Saturday. Boom. Now, as I said, you got to practice this because what happens when you remove the carbs, the body actually has been given a natural diuretic anyway. So you start dropping the fluids from within the cell. So the glycogen, which normally is locked in the cell, is being depleted because you're still training during those days of depletion. But when you reload, you're not training. You sit, you rest, and you allow the cells to fill back up. And they'll do it quickly. They will overcompensate because of being deprived for those 3 to 4 days. Now, it was 4 days for Lee Haney. May only be 3 for some of you, may only be 2. That's why you have to practice and find out. Because when you flatten out, you'll see the muscles won't pop. You'll be flat. Okay, and even if you went by taking in the tea and the water and so forth, you're still going to flush it right out of the system because the carbs is not staying locked within the cells. The cells is not locking the fluid in. Okay, so what happens? You carbohydrate load, and the muscle will overcompensate, and you'll get that nice pop to the muscle. And then you hit the stage that Saturday morning. Everything should be there. So it all depends on when the shows will be taking place. But you want to practice this. So carbohydrate depletion and reload is a fantastic science. And again, it's in my book. Totally awesome. But you got to practice it, because some of you may take only 2 days. If you listen, I hit the stage at 245, 254 pounds for my last Mr. Olympia. I'm a bigger guy. It may take Ronnie longer because he was larger than I. So carbohydrate depletion and reloading, particularly reloading, could work different for different people. Now, that's if you want to experiment on that. But again, you can dry yourself out by wearing, heavy, sweaty deals and so forth, using the natural way of diuretics. As I said, hot tea, B6, horsetail grass, that kind of deal. Okay, so you can do that. All right, so another thing you wanna do too is let's watch these judges. Not the judges. Let's be careful with coaches. A lot of you have coaches that help you with your contest prep and that sort of thing. But listen, if you have a coach that don't have any credentials, having been on the stage and competed, and if this person haven't won the Creekwater USA, you need to fire that coach. Find somebody with experience that's been there, done that. Someone who don't have a backlog of injured clients that they work with. When you look at people like Mike Christian, Rick Aspari, Lee Labrado, Chris Cremier, I can just name a lot of them. Dennis James, all of these guys. These are people that's been there, done that. Leverone, Sean Ray, we've been there, done that. And guess what? We are alive. None of us has succumbed to contest prep. So that says a lot. So you want to make sure you get somebody who knows what they're doing, not a fly-by-night coach that's read a few books. And for the most part, a lot of them are drug artists, drug carriers. So you want to be mindful of that sort of thing, okay? So guys, listen, that's what I had to say. Now, I'll let you know pretty soon when I'll be doing the next one, but you'll be seeing my YouTube pop up here pretty soon. I had another gentleman just chime in and ask me about the type of split I use. Now, I love doing a split. As I mentioned, the 3-on-off-1 is the type of training regimen that I really admire. I used it matter of fact, I have a tendency, and it happened several years, I would do a straight 6 all the way up to, but all season 3-on-off-1, but then change to a straight 6 about 5 to 6 weeks out before the Mr. Olympia. Mistake. I should have stayed with the straight 6. The 3-on-off-1. I'm all over the place. Should have stayed with the 3-on-off-1. And I did that for the last Olympia and was in the best condition of my life because the body had enough time to recover and rest. Whereby the previous years, I used a straight 6 all the way, from first to 3-on-off-1, straight 6, 5 to 6 weeks before the Olympia. And so it made my body look just a little bit fatigued. And there was always a hope that the day before the show or the morning of the show, that particularly my legs would pop and fill in because they were fatigued from that type of training system. So the 3-on-off-1 is the way to go. That is the way to go. I love that system. Now, there's other systems out there where the guys are now training. It's once every 6 days, that kind of deal, and they look like it too. It lack quality. They lack muscle separation. You can't do that by having long lapses of time between workouts. You have to be consistent in order to bring about muscle maturity. And again, we say, well, this is old school bodybuilding. The new school is different. Well, the new school is don't carry much definition, period. It's a fact of the matter. You guys can look. You see the quality of what you've seen at Mr. Olympia for the last few years. Haney, he came in, man, he nailed it. And Lumpfoot, he came in, he nailed it. Both of them was in excellent shape, but guess what? Haney got an old school trainer too. He's a bad dude, man. I really admire him. But anyway, listen, thank you guys. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll let you know what I'll be doing the next one. But look forward to my YouTube channel coming up. So I'll make an announcement about that so we can chat and talk, and I can share some more of my secrets. But what we discussed this evening, you can go to my website, leehaney.com, and you can get a download of my book, Totally Awesome. We just sold out of them a few weeks ago, but the digital download is available. And then before we close out, guys, another thing I really want to emphasize, be careful in overtaxing your system. I had a conversation with an athlete back in December, and they told me that they had hit at least 4 shows already. And I said to this athlete, you can't do that to your body. You're overstressing your system. You'll have a system shutdown. And guess what? It was a system shutdown. That athlete is no longer here today. It broke my heart to find out about that. The immune system totally failed. And so you want to be careful. I take the advice that Robbie Robinson gave me years ago. He said, Lee, pick at least 2 shows a year to do. He said, and do that only. Don't overtax your system. Because remember, guys, your health is your wealth. You don't get but one body. I'm 63 years young. I feel good. I don't have any joint problems and so forth. And I attribute that to, training safe. And that's what I want for you guys. Listen, God bless you. I'll holler at you later. Make sure you go to my site, leehaney.com. And those of you who want to get ready for the show, Lee Haney Games coming up November the 11th in Atlanta, Georgia, at the Georgia International Convention Center. You can go to leehaneygames.com and get yourself signed up and registered, because I'm going to be doing some things to help walk some of you through prep, okay? Real prep. God bless you. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.